Hi, I'm Nate from Good Mayhem Racing, and we raced the Cinco de Baja 300 in El Paso, Texas this last weekend. We didn't just finish the race, we actually podiumed with a second place finish in the Sportsman's Truck class. In this video, I'm going to review an essential piece of kit to our success, and that is the Garmin Tread XL Baja Race Edition. We used it extensively this weekend, both in race and pre-running. I drove the 4Runner, and Steve Tayo was my co-pilot and mentor. Steve is an internationally renowned Baja racer, and I would not have finished it without him and the help of our crew. Steve was incredible, and I learned a lot, and never underestimate the value of a great co-pilot. His feedback makes up the bulk of this review. Full disclosure, we're not affiliated with Garmin at all. The Garmin Tread XL is a massive 10-inch wide Android-operated GPS powerhouse that allows you to not only store gigabytes of navigation data, but actually use it. It's the first of its kind where massive, highly detailed satellite imagery can be easily merged with .gpx files to make them turn-by-turn instructions without the use of an iPhone or a fish finder. It's a dedicated racing kit that enables you to navigate, communicate, and broadcast your race status real-time through inReach Iridium communications. Usually all of this is done with multiple unrelated devices, and it's really nice to have all of that rolled into one. Pair that with the redundant vehicle antennas and a device that's removable from its mount in the car, and Garmin has an easy sale with new off-road racers. Garmin has a tougher sale with experienced off-road racers. You can teach an old dog new tricks, but getting a seasoned racing crew to switch navigation apps and hardware is much more time-consuming and much more expensive. This weekend I got to use LeadNav, Lowrance, and Garmin during pre-running stage. Steve thought it was wise to introduce me to the other competitors on the market to get a better understanding prior to our race. If one of the other nav kits was a better fit, we'd use it. It was time to pre-run. We drove Steve's pre-runner for the first section, and then we did a shakedown run for the 4Runner before tech inspection that night. We pre-ran about half of the course, 30 miles, give or take. The Tread XL allowed us to easily add a waypoint, but modifying and filling in details of that waypoint is impractical at pre-running speeds. By the time we could click through the sub-menus to modify the notes, we forgot what they were for. I think LeadNav is the winner here. That Apple-only app easily allows you to add waypoint details at speed. That makes me think that Garmin has not done... Sorry. That makes me think that Garmin is not done with the pre-running portion of its software. Ironically enough, in Garmin's promotional emails, the hyperlinks to Garmin's pre-running introduction are also broken. It's almost like they're still working on it anyway, and I hope they consider our feedback for it. Garmin is one map menu away from making the best pre-running kit on the market. To add some context, I'll briefly mention race mode. In race map mode, the Tread XL displays waypoint details on the left. As you pass a waypoint, it rolls on to the next. That's great for new guys in the sport, but experienced racers will probably hide that rolling sheet in favor of seeing waypoints on a bigger map, like Steve did. However, a UI like that should be available in chase map mode or even a dedicated pre-run mode where the user has pre-selected 6 or more waypoint descriptions that auto-populate at the push of a button. If Steve wants to waypoint a hazard, he selects hazard from that UI. If Steve wants to select hard left, it's already there on the UI. If Steve wants to waypoint Excel, it's there on the UI. Those don't have to be permanent words either. The user could fill them in beforehand. Both teams have their own lingo, but the details are simple in comparison to other racing sports. For example, rally racers have much more precise pre-run notes than desert racers do. True, you can document all manner of details in post with the .gpx file that navigation software can export, but if your schedule is tight, that's not reasonable. My wife Kelly ended up culling the data in post, and she worked to the wire before race start to make it happen. I think this pre-runner UI would not only benefit Garmin's offering, it would probably push legacy racers over the edge to buy the new system. P.S. The Garmin's GPXs worked with LeadNav, with Lowrance, and Polaris's nav software. That last one was an unexpected but welcome nav to try. Next up, we had one big challenge while using the Tread XL. Steve is grayscale colorblind, and the multicolored sheets and tracks provide no contrast at all. Once we figured out how to change the colors of both roads and the tracks, we had a much higher contrast screen that Steve could effectively use. For those who are colorblind, I suggest switching the map display to Italia and then picking the most contrasting track color, whether it be bright white or black, to easily discern it from the surrounding data. You can also make the track wider, so that helps it stick out more too. I think Garmin should make a dedicated colorway and display mode that specifically addresses color blindness. Third, we had a repeating bump error during racing. Whenever we'd hit a hard bump, the screen would sense a touch and go into another fixed waypoint display. Even though the Forerunner suspension is fairly compliant, it was like the touchscreen had enough momentum or something to register that shock load as a touch on the display. If there was a way to lock out the touch display and only use the buttons on the race dock, we would have. We rebooted the nav early in the race because we thought the nav had frozen. That took a minute to reboot, and since we were traveling at 70 miles per hour or so, it took a while for the GPS system to lock back on us. Next up, we used the Garmin InReach system to broadcast our location during racing. I had the 4-minute plan. Family, friends, and fans were able to keep tabs on us while racing. It worked excellently with no issues. People were asking our pit crew how we were doing while we changed a flat tire in the field. The fact that it integrates with other InReach devices is very nice. And once I have the chase kit of this system or a second race nav to use, I'm looking forward to trying that feature set with our team. Oh, and we did use the group ride feature in the Tread app on our phones, and it worked fine too. Overall, the Garmin Tread XL Baja Racing Edition worked well, and we're looking forward to using it again. Even though we had touch sensitivity issues and the challenges with covenant blindness and difficulty documenting pre-run waypoints, it's a decent system that's only limited by programming. Once the software gets ironed out, especially for pre-running, this will be the kingpin of off-road racing navigation. Should you buy it? If you're new to the sport and do not have nav for off-road racing, yes, buy it. If you're an experienced off-road racer, try it before buying it. You might be surprised by how much you like it. I'm Nate from Good Mayhem Racing, and I will see you in the desert, if not my garage.